The big thing that we want to talk about today is the compensation survey. So I'm not going to go a whole lot into it other than a little bit of detail. So we started the compensation survey in 2017. It was something that largely I did for my own edification, as well as those of a few other people that I knew who were looking for jobs. And it turned out really awesome. Like it was dare I say, career changing, certainly career changing for me, and life changing for some other people that I know got some significant raises out of it. We started to do it again in 2018 and a little bit again in 2019. Both kind of got some false starts and we decided to close it. But this time around, we were very, very fortunate to have a great volunteer team that Yvette has led, and we met Chloe in January, and she has been absolutely fantastic for this effort. So these two have been the main drivers of it, as well as myself and Sarah Withy, Philip Kyler, and a few other people who have kind of come and gone as time's gone on. The big thing, this is a results preview. This is not the final results. We're very confident what we have, but it's not completely finalized yet. Chloe laughs a little bit.
Because I did the analysis.
Yes. And we're going to actually publish a full report on this. We have this elaborate build system set up that we're actually building a document that we're going to publish, and we're going to publish a blog post summary of it. So this is like a real thing, and we were hoping to make this maybe annual, maybe every other year type thing, depending on what the team wants to do with it. We're very interested in equipping people with information and giving people the freedom to move on whenever they realize that they're being underpaid. Without further ado, and to get me to also shut up and stop rambling, Chloe and Yvette, take it away.
All right, I'm sharing my screen now. Yeah. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Here are a picture of Yvette and I together. I photoshopped it because it's quarantine, and so we couldn't take a picture together. And there are also our pets, our respective employees of the month. So Yvette, this first slide is for you.
Yeah, I will give some of the history. I guess I didn't talk to Colin about this ahead of time, so we have a little bit of overlap. Just a second, technical difficulty, picked out, okay. So last survey, like you said, was in 2017. We had about 266 respondents that time, and it was focused in Pittsburgh and marketed pretty much directly to the Code and Supply members. And this time, like I know they had tried to do it before, a year or two ago, and it never quite picked up. And this year kind of came up, I volunteered, and we started meeting in January. We set some goals and deadlines for where we wanted to be with it in terms of like questions and outreach. And then Chloe, she joined a little bit later. So the way we planned to do it actually changed because she's a professional data analyst. So it had a lot of skills that we needed. So it was good. I mean, it took a turn for the better, and now we're gonna have like very, very accurate and analyzed data. Before it was gonna be accurate, but I think we have some more higher mathematical data points here, and some more detailed analysis on the intersection of a lot of these questions, which is what we wanted to do. And she was really good about doing that. So one of the major differences between the last survey and this one is it's longer. There was some stuff we wanted to dive into that we were able to. We asked more lifestyle questions and more specific career questions about interviewing, and current job, because we had liked some of the commute and lifestyle questions from the last one, so we kind of like beefed up that section. We ended up with around 70 questions. I think next time we're gonna do it a little smaller, but we marketed it around the country and basically tried to post and share it everywhere that we were allowed to, and we ended up getting 783 people who completed it, which is pretty good. And we were looking for data in a bunch of different cities so we could kind of analyze trends and help people out who were not part of the Code and Supply. And by advertising this, we did get a bunch of new people to join the Code and Supply, which was good. So we also had a process at the beginning. We like when I first heard about it, I was thinking, okay, cool. We're gonna ask some questions, get it out in the community, analyze it. And then once you really start working on it, you kind of see like how specific each question has to be. You don't want the questions to be like very different in style. We probably all as a team went through the questions like hundreds of times. And we figured out like which analysis tools we wanted to use and the grouping and how big each section should be. And then Colin did a really good job of getting us some sponsors and tried to work on the advertising, and he got to post in a lot of places too. And right now we're working on the write-up. We're gonna have several dozen, probably more charts, and a blog post, and then a formal PDF write-up with pretty much every detail that you can imagine. So this will help people out when they're looking for jobs, and it'll also help out employers to maybe see what people are looking for and try to offer more competitive rates too. So that's it for the intro. Chloe's going to talk about the analysis of everything that we did.
Yeah, I like that analyze is like filled up, like it's done, but I feel like that needs its own like process thingy here. So I'm going to be talking a lot about slope in some of these graphs. So this is like an important style graph that I may reference. This one in particular is expected total compensation by base salary. So we can see here these dots here that are all kind of overlapping and following this like nice pretty diagonal line. Those dots are very highly correlated. So it basically means that like they're the same. Like this dot right here, we can see this person is making 200K in expected total comp, and they're making 200K in base salary. So another, just to reemphasize like what slope is, so these are people who are receiving no additional compensation, so they're all clustered here. And then this is everyone who's receiving additional comp. So you can see as someone gets further to the right, the more they're making an additional comp. So like this person here, let's see, they're making 120K in base, but they're making like 345 in total. So that's why it's all the way over here. So we would say like these points here have a weaker correlation between expected total comp and base salary. It just means that like if we know someone's expected total comp, it's tougher for us to know their base salary. Whereas here, if they're following this nice pretty slope, they have a very high relationship. So most of you guys who took the survey are engineers. And then you'll note here some of the expected total compensation for these categories. I'll try to include expected total comp on every graph you see just because that is the focus of the survey. At this high level view, any C-level employee is making the most in terms of average salary. But when I broke the data down, I think a C-level employee had the like 34th highest salary in the survey. So that's just an example of how averages can be deceiving. And then among the people who reported being engineers, we can see that 63% of them work with software. And as expected, a senior software engineer is making more than a software engineer. And the third most common title is a lead or a principal engineer. And there were some other assorted categories that we'll talk about more in the write-up just because they're like a little bit more niche. Again, it's only 17% of all engineers. And most of you guys who took the survey are not managers. And you can see kind of salary here for that. I forgot to put salary here, but it's even more for managers and managers. So on average, managers make more than non-managers. So we can kind of see the distribution of everyone who falls into this category. So again, most people are not a manager. So there's a lot of dots overlapping here. And then a few outliers in terms of expected total comp. And then kind of a center of the distribution of expected total comp just sits differently. It's higher up for managers and manager of managers. Overall, managers only made up 17% of respondents, and managers of managers made up 22% of all managers, but only 4% of all respondents in the survey. And here, now we don't have as many managers of managers to talk about, but it is interesting how the salaries for these managers of managers are quite uneven. So we can see the lowest salary is 59,000, which is quite low compared to like all the salaries in the survey. I think average salary overall was about 100K. But also compared to the median salary for managers and managers. So it's kind of like the point that's right in the middle, you know, equal number of points over here and equal number of points over here. So if you know anyone in this category who's a manager of managers, let them know they are not being fairly compensated. And next we're going to talk about gender. So most of the people who took the survey are men. 77% of the sample is male, 18% are women, 3% are non-binary, and then 2% chose not to answer. So just due to some like idiosyncrasies in Tableau, the software I use to create these visualizations, sometimes I lump together cisgender and trans women. Other times they've shown separately. This is because in some of the styles of graphs, if I were to put them in the same column, Tableau would give them the same shape and color, which isn't, which I didn't feel like showed the differences between the two as much. Of course, I welcome any feedback from the trans and non-binary community about how gender is presented in this part of the survey. So here is just an example of years of experience by gender. So this is an example of where, like, if I put trans women and women in the same category, for whatever reason, Tableau makes them all either squares or plus signs. We are seeing more men with more than 25 years of experience in the survey, but our sample size was 77% men, so that is probably a contributing factor. But you can see on average, guys have about 13 years. Women and trans women are about the same at a little over 8, and non-binary people are around 10. So here we're going to look at, this is that same graph that I showed you at the beginning, where we were looking at expected total comp by base salary. So you can see for a lot of guys, they're following on this slope very nicely, but some of them are over here a little bit to the right, again, meaning they make more in additional compensation. I've also plotted on this graph years of work experience. There's a redundancy between color and shape, just to make it more accessible for everybody. So we can kind of see there's like really no rhyme or reason, in my opinion, of years of work experience and expected total compensation. You know, there's quite a few dots all the way out here that are quite light in color and quite small, indicating fewer years of experience. I just want to take a note of the salary down here. For guys, it's about, oh, we'll round that up to 121. And now we're going to compare that to women, who are at about 103. So women are making about $17,000 less than men. Again, this is the same pattern, whereas here's the slope. So these are women who are making very little in additional compensation. And then here's women who are making a bit more. Again, like not a lot of rhyme and reason. Like if we were seeing like years of work experience having a very strong relationship, we would be seeing like a lot of really big shapes over here. And that's like, there's a big shape down here, and then there's a bigger shape here. So it doesn't really seem to matter. And then for non-binary people, I think they made up just a smaller portion of the survey. So there's just less dots here. And they make about $19,000 less than men. You know, one thing that we could be talking about here is that, you know, men had more years of experience. So like, maybe that's why they were making more than women. But here I took women's average years of experience who took the survey. Their average was 8.6, And I excluded all men who had more than 8.6 years of experience. And the trend still persisted with them making more than women. So here we see about 110 for guys with less than 8.6 years of experience. And then when I exclude women with more than 8.6 years of experience, their average total compensation drops even lower, and they're still making about $14,000 less. And the trend persists for non-binary people as well, only making $89,000 with less than 8.6 years of experience. Next, just thinking about how genders are compensated differently. We'll look at their satisfaction with their levels of compensation. So we can see most guys are in this like 4 category. Oh, so the scale is very dissatisfied, dissatisfied, kind of neutral, satisfied, and very satisfied. So looks like most of our guys are pretty satisfied with their compensation. They are making a little bit more than the average for the survey. And then compared to women, it looks like most of our women are kind of 3, 4, 5 as compared to the guys who are kind of 4 and 5 only. But we can see even the women who are like a 5 with their total compensation, like they're still making like a lot less, like $45,000 less than guys who are putting themselves in the 5 category. And then finally we have non-binary people. And again, they're following a similar trend of like most are pretty satisfied. That's like people's baseline. Like if something really terrible happens to you, at some point you like write yourself, like you go back to your baseline. Just like people who win the lottery are like really happy for a little bit and then they kind of drift back to their satisfaction baseline. So it's very hard on the brain to really be in the 2 or 1 category for very long. We would expect someone to leave a job if they were down here. Okay, so then I looked at satisfaction across everything. So we asked about a number of different dimensions of satisfaction, including like commute, job, working arrangements, etc. And then so I kind of put them all together into one measure of overall satisfaction. So we can see, again, most guys are kind of neutral or satisfied because it is hard to persist in a lifestyle that leaves you below neutral. And again, we can see the average salary for guys here. So this is just a distribution showing how the dots cluster. And it's interesting because there's no strong relationship. So we're not seeing like a slope like we saw before in those other graphs. This is more of a blob. And anytime you see a blob, it just means there's no relationship. The variables are not related. So like, if there was a stronger relationship between like overall satisfaction and expected total compensation, you know, it might be that for people like 4 and above, all of their dots are like way up here in this part of the graph, you know, because they'd be making a lot of money. But that actually isn't the case. It looks like, you know, roughly the same number of dots kind of all in this area, which ranges from 3.2 all the way up to 5. And then women have a similar distribution. Again, they fall right kind of neutral to satisfied. Again, we're seeing that blob shape, which shows there's no major relationship between like overall satisfaction in all those different areas and expected total compensation. And again, the same with non-binary people. The number is a little bit lower here, but that may be because we don't have as many non-binary people in this survey. So most of you guys are receiving some kind of additional compensation. The most common form of additional compensation for you guys is a bonus. Other forms of additional compensation are RSUs. 25% of you have those as part of your additional comp. 17% have stock options and 8% do profit sharing. So we can see pretty much, except for this category here, bonus is less than 5% of their base salary. People who receive a bonus, their base salary is less than their, their base salary is greater. So it's like, so this is base salary, which I know I have been talking about expected total compensation so far, because that's like the most comprehensive measure. But this is this is base salary, and like people whose base salary is higher are also receiving more money and additional compensation. Also, this is just a coincidence that the number is 67 in terms of most people, 67% of you receive a bonus. Also, the average compensation for everyone who receives a bonus is 172,000, which is 67% higher than those who do not receive a bonus. So I don't know if this is a case of like people who make more money. I would have expected like in such high categories, like where people are receiving like quite high salaries or quite high bonuses as a percentage of their salary, for their base salary to be lower because they're getting the bonus, but that is like not the case at all here. So here I was like trying to look at expected total comp and years of experience, and there continues to be no rhyme or reason. Like I was showing you with those graphs with gender. Remember, it had like a really neat slope, and most everyone was on the slope, but the circles were like dark and different sizes, and it didn't matter. So here I've made the shapes experience level instead of years of work experience. So I've got years of work experience on the bottom, and then the shape and the color are related to experience title. And then we've got expected total compensation on the left here. And yeah, I mean, this is blob, which means no relationship between years of work experience and expected total comp. And then this line is kind of just like confirming that. Like the line is quite flat as compared to that slope that was like really sharp, indicating a very strong relationship. So there is a relationship between years of work experience and expected total compensation for people making less than $90,000 who are not receiving additional compensation. This is actually the only category where I've found any kind of relationship between years of work experience and expected total comp. So we're like kind of seeing a pattern here, you know, where we have years of work experience on the smaller end. You know, these dots are lighter in color and smaller, indicating fewer years of experience. And then we've got the bigger, darker colored dots over this way. And then compensation is going up as years of experience is increasing. So that's like a decent relationship and kind of consistent with what you would expect if you know anything about tech salary. But here we're back to the blob. So as you can see, this line is pretty straight. Dots are all different colors and sizes and are all over the place. Yeah, I mean, here we're showing between $90,000 and $150,000 without additional compensation. I mean, really no relationship. And the blob continues for people whom are making over $150,000 with no additional compensation. This line persisted even when I excluded this outlier. I mean, there's just nothing here. So then I looked at expected total compensation and years of work experience for people who are receiving additional compensation. And we're still seeing the same blob. Again, like really no relationship between years of work experience and expected total comp. And there's no relationship here. Like the slide is so flat. So this is expected total compensation for people who are receiving additional compensation. Total is less than 90K. I mean, this is just chaos. This is like a Jackson Pollock scatter plot here. Pretty much the same, no relationship between $90,000 and $150,000 people who are receiving additional compensation. I mean, a little bit, you know, we can see some of the smaller and lighter colored circles are clustering over here, but then we're also seeing kind of bigger and darker circles as well. So, yep, and still no relationship up there or here. I mean, there's just nothing. So don't expect years of work experience to have any relationship to your expected total compensation. Just go out there and ask for the money you want. And then lastly is just some stuff related to job changes. So most of you did not change jobs in the last year. So that's 62% of you. And then I've just got average expected total compensation for everyone in that category. So here are those of you who did not change jobs. And then here's the remaining percentage of you who did change jobs. Most of you who changed jobs in the last year saw an increase in your salary, and your final expected total compensation is $187,000. A portion of you saw a decrease in your salary. Average expected total comp is $150,000. And then the smallest portion of you stayed the same when you changed jobs in terms of expected total comp, and your average was about $152,000. So knowing someone is still the fastest and most common way to find a job. So if we're looking here, the pink is a referral from someone you know. The orange is any job board. And we've got internal recruiter, third-party recruiter, met them through a code and supply event, met them at any other networking event, consulting or acquisition, and then this teal color is a founder. Oh, and then some people are like self-employed. I think there's like one person here, if you can see it, that brown stripe is self-employed. So 35% of you found a job in less than 1 month, so you'd be in this column. And most of you found a job through someone you knew, that would be 42% of you. And then overall, so including all of these bars, 38% of you found a job through someone you knew, followed by 24% of those of you who found a job through any job board. So even if you took 4 to 6 months or over 6 months to find a job, those of you are still finding that job through someone you know. And then finally, I've just got some priorities when evaluating a job offer. So actually, most of you value experience or opportunities above all else. Salary actually comes in at third in terms of the highest priority, followed by company culture, teammates, commute, company ethics, benefits, and then any other compensation. And it looks like on average, those of you who are looking for experience or opportunities when evaluating your job offer have the highest salary on average. And then in comparison, we have lowest priority when evaluating a job offer. So for most of you, that would be other compensation, followed by benefits, commute, company ethics, experience opportunities, teammates, company culture, work-life balance, and then salary is the least common, lowest priority for you guys. And it looks like highest salary is commute. So those of you who value commute the least. Oh no, it's benefits. Benefits. Those of you who value benefits the least make the most money. That's interesting. Okay. And then this last bit is for Yvette, just to talk about the future survey. Yvette, did you leave me? I could read this slide if you left.
Unmute.
It's okay.
Like Colin was saying, we're going to plan to do this more regularly. We got a really good set of questions. So we probably won't be spending a couple months going over the questions. Though we'll probably cull it down. We also have some thoughts on sending out a post-survey, like maybe 10 questions or so to everybody who took it in about a month, and to see like what they thought about the write-up, what we should focus on in the future. And we also are thinking maybe to do a bunch of like micro surveys for possible categories and like really get into those instead of one massive one. We did get a lot of feedback that this year's was very long. And I wonder if that dissuaded people. So we want, like, our point is to keep up with the trends, figure out what people want, and to try to get a wider reach within the entire country. Like to get the data, but also to connect the code and supply to people who live in other places. So I think with more activities and more, maybe some more blog posts, this more engagement, we could find out how we can unite as tech workers and, you know, investigate different topics, especially related to compensation.
And then just a teaser at the end here, a predictive model is coming, but your experience will vary. Just because if you think about the people who are most representative in our respondents, you know, it's guys, kind of mid-level. I think average salary was around 100K. So predictive model like won't work so hot for like women who are like juniors maybe. So that will be going around. I'll build one, probably a regression. Another one will be like a decision tree. There might be some like black box AI, machine learning, but we'll see. I'll probably build 2 or 3 models and then bother those of you who did not take the survey for some test data just to see if the model is working. So thank you guys so much. This has been really awesome to work on. Yeah, and I can take questions now, and Yvette can also help answer questions.
Cool. We do have one outstanding question about how this will be distributed. I think that's probably one more that I can answer than you two. This is going to be distributed through our website, codeandsupply.co/survey. And it will be also distributed through our blog, medium.com/leaky-abstractions, which I don't have a slide conveniently prepared for. The blog will be like a summary of the final report, or the first version of the final report. We're intending to do multiple versions of the final report as we get some feedback on reports that we should add or on errata, things like that. But we're the PDF will be available whenever we get to it. Probably, I think we could ship as early as Monday. It could be as late as the end of the month. But we're
yeah, and if you follow Code and Supply in any way, you will find it. It will be on every channel, I'm sure. It will be on my LinkedIn. It will be on Twitter. I mean, you will not miss the results. And there are a lot of variables that were not included in this presentation just for simplicity and because we wanted to focus on compensation because that was the main focus. But there's like work-life satisfaction. There's other variables I should remember, like if people have health insurance or like emergency funds. There's lots of other things that we can include and make graphs for. So watch for that in the report.